Well, patch 5 has dropped, and it is the biggest and most significant one to date, since it includes a panoply of post-ending epilogue cutscenes and cinematics that, frankly speaking, I was not expecting. At the moment, I can't play the game because the patch broke my mods, and I assumed that would happen. I just need to wait a few days, and I still haven't beaten the game. That effort is still in the pipeline, but I am ever one to spoil myself, and I've looked at a lot of the post-ending epilogue, and it's very impressive. The one about Gale with respect to a particular type of ending regarding Gale, especially, I thought was mind-blowingly impressive, very, very cool. And overall, this epilogue gives you the sense of satisfaction that you might have craved after the ending of the game. And again, as I always say, it's to the credit of Larian. How many studios do this? We expected some kind of ending slides, maybe, and maybe in the distant future or next year, but instead they deliver entirely new cutscenes with deep cinematics, dialogue, the connection to the branching choices that you make during the story, just a few months after they release the game. And most people are going to be satisfied with this, to give you that sense of closure. Now, in addition to that, obviously, they brought out a higher difficulty, which was what my video was about last time, honor mode. But more importantly, and I think this is the real highlight of the difficulty aspect of the patch, they brought out custom mode. Now, personally, I definitely wanted a higher difficulty with respect to the game, but at the same time, I don't just want one save, in which case, custom mode provides that option. So I can set it to all the things on honor mode, but with multiple saves, should I so choose. There are a lot of little other things regarding the patch. Many people have covered it, but the final epilogues and the difficulty setting is really the big deal here. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about the patch. Needless to say that Larian definitely has delivered to a degree that, to be perfectly honest, very few other developers could even dream of delivering on. But the question that interests me the most is, what does this mean for the future of the game? Baldur's Gate 3 is a single-player game. Eventually, with respect to patches and content, the adventure will be over, not counting mods, of course. And the colossal scale of the epilogue cutscenes that they've introduced with this patch has really got me thinking, what else could they possibly add to a game? Now, of course, there are going to be bug issues that in time will be resolved. That's normal. Try to track down all the bugs, iron them out, make it as smooth as possible, improve performance. These are a given, and we can expect Larian to do that in the future. But what else could they possibly add in this game? And it's interesting because I think this question is directly tied into these ending dialogues in the epilogue. Because having watched the videos on YouTube, it really gives you the sense of this is the end. It is a complete game. It is done, for the most part. Yes, we may quibble about the upper city in Baldur's Gate, that a lot of it seems to be missing, if not most. That is a separate discussion. But in terms of things they could still release within the confines of the game as it exists now, I very much doubt that they would add anything right now that would directly add new layers to the game proper, which is to say the story is more or less complete, and anything they would add probably would have to be supplementary to what's ever already in the game, therefore could not too much interfere with the actual story and the game. So what occurs to me then would be things such as new spells, new magic items, and potentially new classes such as the Artificer. Now, there is a fantastic mod for the Artificer, but let's be honest, having that class in the game proper, I think, would be even more impressive. And as after all, Gortash is effectively an Artificer, I see no reason why that class could not be in the game. Maybe they could add an extra race, such as the Aasimar. Possible. Not probable, but possible, because the game is pretty complete. And one thing seems reasonably conclusive with respect to this patch, again, and that is, I do not foresee some kind of DLC related to the game, because the game is more or less complete. You have your beginning, you have the middle, you have the end. On the one hand, I think it would be unwise not to capitalize on the popularity of the game. On the other hand, if Larian is not invested in the idea of DLC, they're not going to do that, or Sven has to greenlight that. But I can't imagine what kind of DLC they could add that would somehow work well with the game as it exists in its current state. That said, it's not impossible. They have, on more than one occasion, that is Larian Studios and Sven in particular, that they are not entirely opposed to the idea. They're open to it. That doesn't mean they're going to do it. So it would have to be probably something that happens during the story, which would be kind of strange, or something that happens post ending, so to speak. That is, later on after the epilogues. And the difficulty there, of course, is you have to deal with all the different iterations. Gale, for example, has a very special ending, potentially, and that wouldn't work, I would argue, for any kind of DLC adventure beyond Baldur's Gate 3. So really what I'm doing here is spitballing and thinking about what might be the case in terms of content. To summarize, I think gameplay-related content is most likely, so new spells, new items, maybe a new class, maybe a new race. I don't see them adding anything. I could be wrong about that, obviously. Not a prophet or clairvoyant, but the game seems reasonably complete. And interfering with the story in a massive way with a DLC would require a lot of material to be rewritten, reintroduced, and given the epilogue now, post finishing the game, it seems very difficult to imagine how they would fit in some kind of DLC or expansion, even though most of us would be willing to pay for it in light of just how final that epilogue is and the sense of finality that it gives to you. So great patch, I can't wait to play it once my mods have been fixed and allows me to play the game properly, but I'm really curious what you guys think. What do you think is going to be added to the game going forward? Now I haven't mentioned Definitive Edition, but it seems mind-boggling to me that there would be one. Not to say that they're not going to make one, they almost certainly will, but given all the things that have been added, and they will continue to add, sometime next year we're going to get a Definitive Edition that adds even more stuff. It's, as I said, mind-boggling. And maybe there's where you'll get the Artificer or the Aasimar as a race. Who knows? So please let me know what you would like to see going forward, what you think is reasonable, and probably more importantly, what you think is probable concerning Baldur's Gate 3. There's still probably a bunch of patches to be released before Definitive Edition. What do you think they're going to add? Does story-related DLC or a story-related expansion even make sense in light of how thick the story is? How could they connect it? Would it be something a year after the events? Would it be something totally disconnected? What do you think? As for me personally, if it were possible, I would really love to see a high-level adventure, so maybe 12 to 16, involving high-level foes, and something that is far away. If you played any of these games, then you know we're constantly dealing with the Sword Coast. So maybe something related to Thay. Maybe something in the north, near Icewind Dale. Maybe something in the center, near the Sea of Fallen Stars. Maybe something in the south, near Chult. But really, anything that's high level, anything with a good story, and anything that is reasonably far removed from Baldur's Gate 3 and the Sword Coast, that's what I would love to see. I have no idea if they're going to make a DLC like that. In fact, I have severe doubts, specifically because Sven himself said it would be very difficult to make a DLC like that with high-level abilities, high-level enemies, and that sort of thing. And on top of that, weaving the story and its many iterations into this new DLC or expansion would be very difficult. Not impossible, just very difficult. But I pray to the gods that he has the ambition for Larian to do just that. But that's my hope and wish. Do let me know in the comment section. I'm super interested to know. Thank you for watching. If you like my content, you can leave a like, you can share the video, comment, sub if you're not yet a sub. It'd be much appreciated, it helps out the channel, and I will check you out next time. Take care.